If you're interested in learning how to draw better, then stay tuned as I'll go over my personal warm-up drills that has helped me become the artist that I am today. I'll start by first showing some of the pieces that I have, some of the art pieces that I have produced, and they're pretty much random pieces. They're not, they're not related to each other. The the reason I put some of these together, one thing they have in common, they're mainly line art. And what I want to discuss before I show you my warm-up drills is, if you look at my work, yes, it still has that rough sketch look, which I like very much. I do not like crisp, clean, perfect lines that you would see, for example, on like an animation show, something of that nature. I like to leave, basically I like to leave my lines in there so that it's clean enough for somebody to go ahead and build this in 3D, or someone to look at this and be able to understand the illustration that I put together, but at the same time be able to feel what I was doing. Here, this is an example of a really rough sketch. However, even though it's extremely rough, you can still feel the energy behind it. It's loose, it's energetic, there's flow to it. It's working. There's just, it's a working picture. It's a working sketch for me, and I was able to take that and overlay it and produce this version, which is still, I mean, like I said, it's still a rough-looking image. However, it's enough to push it into the next stage of whether it's going to be painted or built in 3D, put into a book for illustration, and so on and so forth. Anyway, that's an example here. Here's a tavern that I drew a long time ago. Also, yeah, here's a really old image of a little water town, which I was inspired by the film The Hobbit, and I decided to create my own water town. And here's some bug studies, which I drew bugs, and then I decided to draw them in basically as if they're products, which Feng Zhu preaches a lot. Draw everything as if you're drawing a product, and drawing bugs is not easy. So again, the point of this demo is not about bugs. The point of it is line quality and just building confidence with your lines. And the way that happens, at least for me, from my experience, it has to do with my warm-ups. I believe that's what separates me from other artists that I have come across or I've worked with in the past. Where's the rough? Yeah, here's an example of that same image you just saw previously. That's pretty much done. Here's one where I did the layout, and then I figured, I need to dress the set. Even a very rough drawing, even a very rough sketch, as you can see, it still has energy to it. It still feels very, it has like a confident approach. It just feels really good. It feels right. It feels like it's working. I feel the energy behind what I'm doing. And then I was able to take that and then go over it. And I mean, I went a little too tight on some of these things, but overall it's the same concept that I've been discussing. Yeah, so what I'll do now is I'll go ahead and show you my warm-up drills. And then as I do the warm-ups, I just want you to keep in mind all these images that I've showed you, how they could relate to this. As your confidence goes up doing those warm-up drills, you'll notice whatever it is that you're drawing, it will get better. It will, of course, you still have to study this world. You still have to study anatomy, perspective, lighting. I mean, it's so many things that you would still have to study. However, by simply doing a warm-up before you begin sketching, you will notice that your work quality does go up. Your line quality does go up. Your confidence goes up, and there's a sense of energy in your work. And to me, that's really beautiful. It's timeless when you can capture energy. And like, this piece it's not the greatest illustration in the world, but it just, something about it is working. And I believe it's because of the way confidently laying my lines down, even though I still have a long way to go. And there's still so much that I don't know and so much I need to learn. Simply by doing these warm-ups, I see improvement in my work, just as you will. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So I'll go into the warm-up right now. Okay, I'll start by opening a 11 by 17 canvas set at 300 dpi, and my background is white. Now I just zoom in till it hits 100% because that's just the canvas I want to work on in case you want to follow through. The brush that I just selected is the default brush from Photoshop. It's a great brush. You could do a lot with it, but for this instance, I prefer to do my warm-ups with the, what's that brush called? Airbrush, that's right. So that little brush you just saw, the second one, is pretty much airbrush, and I just reduced its pixels down to 6 pixels for this demo. And once you test it out, you'll see that it moves. It just has a nice smooth feel to it. It tapers better personally. Here I start placing by some dots on the left side, and on the right side the dots, as you notice, they're going further and further away. The point of it is that as I draw straight lines, they gradually get harder. And if you pay attention right now, I am ghosting over the lines once or twice to build that basically muscle memory for that line that I'm about to connect. Essentially, I mean, when you're designing or drawing, you're generally you're putting lines together. So this is by far, I mean, personally speaking, I think it's the most important warm up. Is learning to draw straight lines, but not just lines, but connecting lines. So it's really two birds, one stone. Yeah, you'll notice some lines will be thicker, some lines will be thinner, wobbly lines, lines that just taper and disappear, don't really connect. But it's okay. I mean, that's the point of a warm up, and it will get a lot easier over time. Here, I'm trying to connect 3 lines, but in the warm up, as you can see, I'm doing it all in one shot. But in reality, as you can see, I'm circling where I missed. In reality, if I was designing and I had to draw a curve, I would connect them. I would do them in 2 separate sections, in like 2 separate curves, instead of one straight curve, which is a lot harder to hit. Here, I'll try to show what I'm talking about, where I first connect the first 2 dots, and then I try to connect the second and then the third dot. Now, in a warm-up, it's the strangest thing that just trying to do one straight curve feels a lot easier and smoother, but I know from experience when you have to do that, and if you're drawing like a vehicle or something that requires a curve, you'll notice that breaking the 3 points into 2 separate curves and connecting them is a lot easier. But yeah, I just wanted to show both ways of warming up. Yeah, missed that point too, but that's okay. That's a warm-up. Now I just want to basically draw straight lines and then continue basically drawing the next line that's about the same, trying to match the length and also the distance. And as I build as my confidence goes up, you'll notice I try to make the lines come closer and closer and closer to each other, because that requires more accuracy. It requires more confidence. Here you could see that I messed up a whole bunch of lines, but I'm now going into the lines. And then it's best to just like start over. Just draw a line, leave a nice amount of space that you feel comfortable with, and then start matching that line in basically the space between the lines, and also the length. You try to match the length, and then the spacing, and then eventually less and less and less space as your confidence goes up. Now I'm basically going to do some ellipses, because ellipses are super difficult. But the way I like to do them is I like to start with the thinnest possible ellipse that I could put together. And then I try to, imagine there's a left line and a right line that's like a wall. And then now you need to basically increase the ellipse degree, but maintaining basically the width of that ellipse, which is really difficult. As you can see, I'm having a tough time trying to hit it. And one more thing to keep in mind, once again, I'm ghosting over my lines and trying to do the entire ellipse with all these rules that I'm discussing just with one shot. As you can see, just like one shot. I mean, yeah, sure, there might be like a thinner line underneath as I begin, but generally speaking, it's one confident stroke trying to get the whole thing right at once. Now, I mean, the reason I do that, again, it's because the cleaner you draw, and the more there's like a basic thought process behind it, the higher your confidence will go up, basically. Here I'm using exactly the first exercise, which is connecting two dots, creating a line. And now I'm using that very first warm-up to create a box, because I mean, everything in this world can be placed into a box. So and I find them really hard to do. I mean, to this day, sometimes I get a box where it's like, okay, that turned out pretty cool, that turned out nice, it looks good, but it's not always. What does that tell me? It tells me that I still have a long way to go just to master how to draw a box. I know it sounds silly, but hey, if you want to be a master, you have to be the master. You have to be a master of the basics. I forgot who said that, but that's something I like to live by. My box, again, it looks wobbly and it's just all over the place, but whatever. I mean, it's a warm-up. I'll continue with it now. Now I'm putting in X lines to divide my surfaces, or the planes, as it's a better way of terming it. And now I'm trying to put the ellipse into each plane um, of that box, which is really difficult. As you can see, I'm missing it big time. Mind you, like when I'm drawing by myself and nobody's watching, I mean, in this case, I know I was recording my screen, so I had the sense of somebody will watch this. It was making me nervous. It's equivalent to like when I'm sketching at a coffee shop. Everything's fine until somebody decides to sit next to me or stand over my head, and I mean, they're just curious, like, "Oh, cool, what are you doing?" But in my head, it's like, "Oh no, I can't really draw anymore." That's just me. I don't know if you guys are the same. So that's one of the reasons I found like putting this warm up together to be really difficult. Oh yeah, right here you'll notice I purposely put the line more to the left instead of lining it up the way it should have been from the point, because if I did, as you can see, I put an arrow, it would have created a tangent between the back line and that front line, which you want to avoid tangents. That's another cool thing about warm-ups. Your brain starts to become aware of general rules, like, you know, avoiding tangents, um, thinking about what you're going to draw just before you draw. Of course, not always, but uh, it it basically puts you in that state to have a thought process, to be in that mental state before you get into whatever it is that you're going to draw. And I decided to do a second box. As you can see, that the second box is already looking better compared to the first box. It doesn't look as wobbly, it looks more solid. And I'll try to attempt at putting in the ellipses within those uh, planes. Again, it's it's not happening today, but that's okay. Let's see how that works. Oh yeah, all over the place. No, terrible. I mean, I don't encourage anybody to use the, you know, command basically to undo your steps, because imagine this was on paper and you were using a pen. I mean, you can't really do that. But whatever. I mean, it's digital, and it really bothered me that it was so bad. I mean, that's bad, but it's still better than the ellipses you saw just a few seconds ago. It's still, at least it's somewhat within that surface, within that bounding plane. Okay, moving on. Um, the last thing that I like to warm up with are freehand circles. Now, whether you're drawing, you know, the same direction, which is counterclockwise or clockwise, it doesn't matter. What matters is what's comfortable to you. I, I mean, for me, it just works doing it counterclockwise. Now, here, what I'll do is I'll purposely go over the line over and over and over and over, just to show you that's not a good thing to do, because it hides your, like, which is the line that you're going to use. You know what I mean? Like, which one is the line you're going to work with? It's all over the place now. Whereas when you ghost over your lines, the same rule that I've been applying to this entire warm up, and then you do one confident, or like roughly 1 to 2 confident strokes. Stick to one if you can. Yes, they look wobbly. Yes, they're all over the place. Yes, the lines are not, the thickness to thinness and vice versa is not matching. So the line weight is not matching. But again, that's part of the warm up. That's part of being conscious of what you're lacking at. You know, and who cares if they look bad? I mean, after all, you are warming up. But trust me, when you do this, oh, that circle. I mean, that is the closest thing to a circle, I believe, in that entire warm up session. Again, when you do these things, you'll notice when you go and draw, you'll be a lot looser, and I don't know. You're almost in a meditative state once you go through this warm up. It just makes your day a lot easier. Once again, I purposely go over my lines. I mean, if you go over them and you do a little cleaner job than me, you'll notice it does look good. But the problem is your original line that you're going to use is not there. Anyway, here's a happy smile, and that's essentially my warm up. I mean, I do have other warm ups to discuss, but I find that what I've shown you today are extremely difficult to master, and B, it serves pretty much the 99.9% of drawings and designs you're going to face on a daily basis. I mean, learning to master drawing a box, learning to master connecting two lines, learning to control the distances between your lines, learn to control your ellipse degrees, learning to draw circles, and pretty much everything here using a single stroke is is not an easy task, and the more you do it, the better you're going to get, and you will notice naturally your overall art just gets better and better and better. And I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, you shouldn't be surprised when people start complimenting how smooth and how confident and how energetic your lines are, as I showed you at the beginning of this video with my own personal art. Anyway, I guess that's pretty much it for the first video. If you found this helpful, please let me know in the comments and drop me a like. Until next time, thank you.